Good morning and welcome back. Your Nova Plus came equipped with a built-in camera. Let's get it working. Today on LaserNug. So we're going to need a few things to get started. If you've connected your computer, whether it's a Windows or an Apple, to your Nova Plus using an Ethernet cable, you're going to need the USB cable that came in your toolbox. If you're already connected by USB, you're fine. The camera will only signal off a USB cable. So in the event that you have the Ethernet hookup, you're going to end up now with two cables running from your PC or your Apple computer to the Nova Plus. The thumb drive that came with your Nova Plus, you've probably kept it in your toolbox. If you have an Apple computer, you're going to want a USB adapter to connect into your USB-C in the back. You're going to want some kind of printed material, whether it's a letter or a card like this, something that's got some clear printing on it, because at some point we want to check to make sure that camera is in focus, and if it's not, we'll have something for it to focus on. I believe at some point in the process, Lightburn is going to ask us to download this pattern and print it off on a printer. When we get there, I'll let you know, and then you can get one printed out. Your Nova Plus does not like circles, so don't download the circle pattern. It couldn't see it for some reason, but it immediately saw this pattern. And you're going to need a piece of material to put in the bed. I'm going to be using a piece of white true flat myself. It's 24 by 36 inches, which is the same size as my bed. I'm not sure if I need it that full size or not, but just in case, I wanted to make sure I had the right size material. You can use MDF, plywood, craft plywood. If you've got a flat piece of cardboard, we can use that as well. You need something to put in the bed. And I think that's all we need. Let's get started. We're going to connect our USB cable from the Nova Plus into the back of our computer. Again, if you're already connected by USB, you're fine, but if you're using Ethernet, you're going to need to add that second cable. Now that the USB is connected from the computer to the Nova Plus, let's turn the machine on. Main power first, laser second. And before we do anything else, we're going to autofocus on this piece of material. This is a really important step. Before we start loading the camera or focusing, make sure that you're autofocused on the material itself. Excellent. Your camera has a lens cap on it to protect it. We're going to take that lens cap off. Don't throw this away though. Just like any camera, when you're not using it, you're going to want to put that lens cap back on. Keep it from getting dirty. But for now, we need it off. I'm going to grab my thumb drive, and in my case, my USB connector, and I'm going to connect it into the back of my Apple. In Lightburn, I'm going to run over here to my equipment list, and I'm going to change to the Nova Plus. Give it a minute, and it appears to be ready. If this says disconnected right here, all you're going to do is right-click the devices button, and it will reestablish communication with your Nova Plus. I'm going to come over here, and you'll see I have a cuts layers window, but I have no camera control window. So I'm going to come back up here, I'm going to go to window, and I'm going to come down to camera control. And when you click that, it's going to automatically add, right here, a camera control window. We're going to open up that camera control, but I'm going to right click anywhere in this window, and I want to import camera settings. I'm going to come over here to my Thunder laser drive. I'm going to go into my Nova series. I'm going to open up that folder. Somewhere in there, there it is, calibration file for camera. And here's the file. Take a look at that number, 243750 Nova 35. I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to open it. And I believe it should now be added into my camera list here. Let's take a look. Oh, it is. It's called camera left. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so it was there, but I've brought in the calibration file. And now we've got a view of the inside of the Nova Plus. Unlike the Bolt, I'm supposed to do this calibration with the lid completely up. So I'm not actually going to close the lid down. We're doing it in this position. What I'd like to do though is I want to get my laser head out of the way. So I'm just going to move that back. Okay, and you probably noticed you have a real-time picture on that camera. Now that I have the camera control in place, I can update the overlay, and when I update the overlay, I'm going to see it right here, completely filling my workspace in Lightburn. So it looks like I've got a great picture. Before I go any further, I do want to check to make sure my camera is in focus. So let's throw this in the bed and see what happens. And I'm just going to position it right around the middle. There we go. Let's take a look on screen. Okay, on screen, you can see in the little window, there's my picture, but let's update the overlay again so I can see it on the big screen. And there it is. Let's zoom in. And yeah, that is definitely nice and crisp and clear. Hey, so I had to break in the middle of this video because I didn't realize until after I edited the video that I had the fade option enabled on my camera control. Here's how it looks. You're seeing a very shaded black and white type of picture. That's because of this option right here called fade. If I turn that off, you'll notice now I've got a color picture and a much clearer picture. Apologize for that, but I wanted you guys to see what the camera actually presents and how clear and how colorful that camera's picture really is. All right, let's get back to the video. Let's just take a moment here and talk about focus. In the event that for some reason the camera was out of focus and my letters were blurry, I believe this here is the focus ring, which you can turn left or right to try to put the camera in focus. You'll see there's a tiny little bit of blue, kind of silicone glue in there. And that's because I understand at the factory, that camera was calibrated and focused, and they've put that glue on there to make sure that it didn't change or move during transport. But in the event that it wasn't in focus, you can remove that glue really easily. It's just kind of rubbery, and then you can change or move or alter that focus ring and just keep checking on screen until it gets into focus. I've removed my piece of paper. We're autofocused. Lid is open. It looks like I've got a nice clear picture of the entire workbed. And now we can do our calibration. In Lightburn, I'm going to come back up here to my laser tools, and you'll see you've got calibrate camera lens, and then you've got calibrate camera alignment. You always calibrate before you do the alignment. So we're going to click on calibrate. In this window here, you're going to see there's some presets. And you're going to see there's a number of different camera models here. I'm not sure which one my Nova Plus has, and I think the camera is different depending on the size of your Nova Plus, but I could be wrong. Either way, we're going to do a full calibration. Here in the calibration pattern, you'll see that you have a choice between circles and April tag 6x9. We're going to choose April tag 6x9. We have a standard lens on our Nova Plus. And this is where you're going to click to download this pattern right here. Now that I've got my pattern printed out, I'm going to click next. And you're going to see it's going to take you through various different steps, and we're going to need to move the pattern around your bed. You want to make sure your material is in your bed. And our first picture here is telling us to put it right in the middle. So I'm going to go put it in the middle. And then we're going to click capture. We're going to get a score, and it'll tell us if we got a good store or not. So let's place that pattern in the first position. Okay, now we're going to capture. And we're looking good. Okay, so we'll go to the next. And we'll just continue to run through the rest of this calibration wizard. On that calibration page, you could have downloaded either circles or this other pattern, which was called April 6x9, I believe. So what I learned the hard way is your Nova Plus does not like circles. So don't download the circle pattern. It couldn't see it for some reason, but it immediately saw this pattern. If you're moving it around in the different calibration spots and it keeps coming back, or it'll come back in one spot or another and say it can't see it, try again, just slightly move your pattern an inch either way. Try again. And as you can see there, after I moved it slightly, it then saw the pattern and said, okay, you've done great, go to the next spot. So just make sure if you've left it there and you've clicked to try to capture image once or twice and it's not getting it, just go back and move the pattern over or down, whichever direction, an inch. Try it again. If it doesn't see it, move it down an inch, try it again. But as you can see there, it captures this pattern pretty nicely. Second point is, you want to do your calibration before you do your camera alignment. And thirdly, when you're doing your camera alignment and your camera calibration, you want to do it with your lid open, not closed. Okay, let's run back up to our laser tools. We're going to click on Calibrate Camera Alignment. First thing it's going to ask is it needs to know what type of camera you have. We have an overhead camera on our Nova Plus, so we're going to choose that one. And you're going to see here, there's an area that says Scale. During this step, to align it, we're going to be printing out these 4 targets as well as the center target. And the scale kind of tells you how big, so to speak, it's going to print. And what we want to do is try to get those targets as wide or as large on our material as possible without going over the edges, so to speak. So it's defaulted here at 139. If I click the frame button, you're going to see it's trying to frame. But it's not framing a very large space. I have all this extra space in my work bed. So I want to try to scale this up so I can get these numbers spread out a little bit more. And I believe that 275 should do it. So I'm going to change it to 275. Click my frame again. That's better. Now I have it spread out much more across the workbench, which I think is going to allow me to align that camera even more precisely. Yep, that's looking great. I need to add some settings in here so it'll make these marks. And my true flat settings, but we'll use 500 speed, line speed, 50 is probably okay. My fill power, I'm going to do that at about, well, let's do 30%, and my line power at about 20%. I'm going to click the frame button now to ensure that the material is positioned correctly. And you can see it's framing. Just for reference, the settings I used are relative to whatever material you're putting in the bed to do the alignment. So I used my true flat settings or a little lighter engraved settings than I normally use. If you were using cardboard, you'd use your cardboard settings, plywood, MDF, etc. Let's run it. We've got all 4 targets, including the center target. Let's jump back into Lightburn. So I'm going to go to the next step here. In this step here, it's going to ask me to capture an image. So again, to update the overlay or what it sees in the bed. And just for reference, of course, you have to close that lid down to do your laser marking. Once it's complete, move your laser head out of the way and lift the lid and leave the lid open for this next step. I'm going to capture image. That's it there. I don't need to move the laser head out of the way. I've already done that. It's over here in the corner, or right here, as you can see. Looks like we're good. It's a complete picture. It looks nice. We're going to click next. And now Lightburn wants me to click in the exact center of each of these 4 targets. So I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to go to number 1. You can move that around. I want to zoom in nice and close. I believe we have to double click. Yes, we do. I'm going to try to get it as exact in the center as possible. I think that's looking good. Now I'm going to move to number 2. I think I might be a little off there, so I'm going to undo that, try it again. I think that looks good. We'll zoom back out, go to number 3, same thing. I think that looks good. Now that all four are done, we can go on to the next step. That's it. Press the finish button and our alignment is complete. And just as kind of a last test here before we leave, let's update our overlay. I'm going to take the fade off so we can see a little clearer. And what I'd like to do here is I want to see how well or how accurate my alignment is. So I'm going to come over here to the position command and I'm going to move the laser head to each of the center of each of these dots or these targets, and we're going to see if they're bang on. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Let's do one more. Let's do number 3. Let's click here. Yeah, that's bang on. Excellent. I'm going to go back to my true flat, and if you remember, there's a target in the middle here, and I'm going to try to make a square or a triangle or some shape that's going to touch and be perfectly in the center of this target, and we'll see if it lines up. I believe I'm going to use the camera with the lid open to line it up, and then I'm going to close the lid. I've got my cuts and layers up. I'm going to come down to camera control because I want to use the camera. And, well, it's already defaulted to what they're calling it camera left. I'm going to update my overlay so I can see it in my workbed here. There it is. We can faintly see that target is right here. I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to grab a shape. And I want to try to get that triangle to touch each side of this circle. So I've got each tip of this triangle touching the circle. I'm in good shape. I have it highlighted. And I'm just going to check my layers here. What am I using for layer? Let's give that a whirl 1 pass. You'll notice that whenever you're using the camera, it will default to absolute coordinates, and that's what you want. So we're in good shape. My triangle's there, it's highlighted. I'm going to send this to the laser. And now I'm going to close the lid, going to pull up my file, and I'm just going to press start. Remember, we don't set an origin, it's on absolute coordinates. And remember, we're looking for accuracy right now. I'm going to grab my file, press enter, and we're going to press start. And when we press start, it should go right to that triangle and exactly imprint it where I asked it to. So my first test, excellent. I am bang on with accuracy. A triangle right in the middle to touch each side, and you should be able to see that it is bang on where I asked it. You'll notice, as you look around the rest of the board, I made a few errors today. Errors which I'll share with you shortly. Let's do our second test so we can wrap this up. I'm just going to grab some anodized aluminum cards and I'm going to drop them randomly around the workbed. And let's see if we can make it work. I'm going to update the overlay, and there you have it. You can see my 3 business cards. Let me just get rid of these guys here and this guy. And we're just going to do a simple test. Let's do a shape. Let's do a circle. I'm just going to make 3 circles. I'm going to duplicate that twice. Put this guy here, and I'm going to run him right up to one edge here and to the bottom. I'm going to try to center this guy roughly. Oh, we'll run him over here. We'll center him roughly in the card. And this one I'm going to put into the corner here. Are we good? I think we're good. Okay, I'm going to press shift and hold, and I'm going to grab all 3 of these because I want all of them. I'm going to come over here to the right. I'm going to hit my cuts and layers, and I think for anodized aluminum we're going to use, I'm not sure if these settings will work properly because I haven't done this yet. I'm going to turn off my air, put it on low air. We're good. I'm going to take a look at what I'm sending. Yep, that's what I'm sending. And let's send it off. Again, you'll notice when you're in camera mode, it's always on absolute coordinates. And remember, my lid is still up. I need to keep the lid up so the camera is directly over my workbed. Let's send this off. Cards are down. We'll close our lid. Pull up our file. Press enter. So just a few tips that I've learned here this morning. When you're using the camera, you place your materials in the Nova Plus bed and autofocus before you do anything else. Make sure you're autofocused, and then ensure that you leave your lid in the up position so the camera is directly over your bed. Then you can jump into Lightburn. You can update your overlay so you can see your materials, bring your design in, duplicate or do whatever design on any piece you want, move it to its respective location. And I might also suggest that in Lightburn, you may want to fill each of your shapes individually instead of all at once. Generally speaking, when I'm engraving, in my layer setting, I leave it at fill all shapes at once. But in this case, as you probably noticed, I had random business cards all over the bed, and now the laser's trying to get across the whole bed, trying to hit any cards in its way. You may want to come down here and use your fill shapes individually or groups together. And that way it'll focus the laser on one card or one keychain or one piece of material in one design at a time and run around the bed that way. Did it work? Sure did. I think I might be fibbing a little if I didn't tell you I made a few mistakes trying to figure this out today. However, I hope this video is in a concise and clean format so that you won't make those same mistakes. That camera, you'll find that camera is gold. You're going to use it more often than you thought you would. For me, I had a lot to learn on the Nova Plus first before I decided to hook up the camera. But if you're there and you're ready, thumb drive, and remember, most importantly, you calibrate the camera, then you do the alignment. If you do them in the reverse order, like say somebody we both know did this morning, your camera alignment is going to be out and your accuracy is going to be off. Calibrate, then do the alignment. And then test it. Make sure, put a triangle in a circle. See if it fits exactly where you put it. Then you know that your calibration and your accuracy is perfect. Thank you so much for sticking around today. I always appreciate you folks hanging out with me, and I hope it's been helpful. Have fun with your lasers, and please be kind to each other this week. I'll see you again on the next one. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching Laser Nug. Cheers.